Today, we are going to be talking about one of the number one things that I hear from parents. My child only likes to talk about the things that they are interested in. How can I get my child to talk about other things? Spoiler alert, what I'm about to say might not be what you're expecting to hear. Hello, YouTube fam. It's time for another video talking about how we can help our autistic loved ones create fruitful and fulfilling lives. And it's still June, which means that we are still going to be talking about how to help your autistic loved one improve their socialization skills. Now, before I get too deep into today's topic, I just want to say right off the bat, please, if you love these videos, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that like button. Anything that you can do will help this channel grow. I greatly appreciate it. And also, we are enrolling in Buddy Group right now. In case you missed it, Buddy Group is my social group program for ages 8 through 20s. And we have 2 levels of classes, and we run a tri-semester throughout the year, and we're enrolling for our summer semester right now. It's an 8-week program. If you live in New York or Pennsylvania, you can get onto one of our virtual classes, or if you live near Goshen, New York, we have in-person classes available there. So go to buddygrouprocks.com, and all of the suggestions that you hear in today's video are all philosophies and principles and strategies that we implement in our Buddy Group program. Also, a big part of our Buddy Group program is parent carryover and training. Each week, you get carryover homework or activities where we teach you what lessons we're working on with your child or your young adult, and give you suggestions on how you can carry over those concepts at home with your loved one, so that we're not just practicing these skills in a vacuum and they start generalizing into your loved one's, your child's everyday life, because that's really where the magic happens. If you'd like more information on that, go to buddygrouprocks.com. Today, we are going to be talking about one of the number one things that I hear from parents who are calling me about information to enroll their child for Buddy Group. And it is, my child only likes to talk about the things that they are interested in. How can I get my child to talk about other things? It is probably the number one comment I receive from parents on this topic. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. How to get your autistic child interested in talking about other things. Now, spoiler alert, what I'm about to say might not be what you're expecting to hear. Before I go into suggestions of how to help your child talk about other things or other people's interests, I actually want to talk about autistic communication styles. When your child talks about one topic and they just share information about this topic and fact after fact after fact, that's something that can be called infodumping. And if your child is doing infodumping, that's actually an autistic communication style. And it's not something that we want or need to correct. As neurotypicals, that isn't a common way that we communicate with each other. But it is a common way that autistic individuals communicate with each other. And when an autistic individual is infodumping or really just talking on and on and on about their special interest, it's actually their way of saying, hey, I really like you and I want to connect with you and I want to share with you the thing that I love most in this world. It's actually a form of them wanting to connect with you and saying, hey, I really like you, so I'm going to share this information with you. Please keep that in mind the next time your child wants to talk your ear off about the same topic again, or wants to talk to other people about the same topic. It's not necessarily something that we want to eradicate or get rid of. No, we're not trying to make our autistic or neurodivergent students become more neurotypical. That is never the goal of a social group. It's never the goal of social communication work. Our goal is to help our autistic children connect and engage with others in a way that they're still remaining true to themselves. One of the ways that you can support this form of autistic communication is sign your child up on groups based upon their interest. So if your child loves building Legos, see if there's a Lego building club nearby. Even if you have to travel a little bit, I promise you it'll be worth it. Sign them up for a Lego building club, or if there's a virtual club, you could do that too. Because what will happen is your child will be in a situation that they're doing what they love. So automatically that's going to increase their internal motivation to participate and want to go. And they're going to be surrounded by other people who also love that same thing. It won't be a burden to anybody there to talk about building Legos because they all love building Legos too. And they love talking about building Legos. I know I mentioned my free autism book club a lot on this channel, but one of the books that we read very early on in our book club was called Autistics on Autism. And that book was a compilation of essays that students who were going into college were writing as part of a scholarship application. And what was so cool about this book was we got to read like 200 essays from different autistic young adults. And a lot of the essays would talk about their journey through autism, from receiving their diagnosis, how they discovered that they were autistic, the challenges they went through. And a lot of times they would talk about how they had challenges fitting in elementary school or fitting in when they were in school. And so many of these young adults would report that once they got into a group that liked the same things that they liked, that's when they hit their stride socially. That's when they started to gain confidence. That's when they really took off and felt better about themselves and felt like they were making friends and real connections. Theater was a big one that happened for a lot of these individuals. There were some people that sports was their thing. Whatever your child is interested in, see if there's a group out there. You could check out Meetup, I know is an app for adults. I don't know if they have that also for children, but do a Google search. Look for groups, or maybe you know of other kids that also like these same things. Maybe you can start your own group. If you can get your child involved in an interest-based activity, that info dumping and that autistic form of communication where they only want to talk about their own things is no longer going to be a barrier to their social success, because they will be surrounded by other people and other peers who like to talk about that thing too. The other thing that is really, really important is to enroll your child in social groups with other neurodivergent individuals or neurodivergent peers. There is something called the double empathy problem, or the double empathy theory. And this basically states that we used to traditionally think that autistic individuals had a challenge with perspective taking. But what they're finding now, it's not that autistic individuals have problems with perspective taking. It's that they have challenges taking the perspective of neurotypical people. But autistic individuals can very easily take the perspective of other autistic individuals, just like a neurotypical person are better able to take the perspective of other neurotypical people. And as neurotypicals, it's hard for us to see the perspective of an autistic person. So it goes both ways. When you are matched by neurotype, you automatically can connect and understand each other better. We hear from listening to autistic adults, they have a much easier time connecting with other autistic adults than they do being surrounded by other neurotypical people. If you have your autistic child in groups where they're surrounded by only neurotypical children, then they might end up feeling like they are almost speaking a different social language than everyone around them. And the problem with that is that it can lead to masking. And if you don't know what masking is when an autistic person or a neurodivergent person suppresses their neurodivergent characteristics or their neurodivergent traits to appear more neurotypical or to fit in. Sometimes this is done to prevent being bullied. Sometimes this is done to prevent getting in trouble in the classroom. And a lot of times it's done to fit in social scenarios. So if you're only exposing your autistic child to neurotypical children, then the odds are that that's going to increase the likelihood that they're going to learn to mask their autistic traits so that they can feel more accepted by their neurotypical peers and feel like they're fitting in better with their neurotypical peers. The problem with that is Over time, talking to the autistic community and research has shown that masking is really, really, really detrimental to an autistic person's mental health. It can lead to reduced self esteem, reduced sense of self, depression, suicidal ideation. It's really not a good thing. We don't want our autistic children to think that there's something wrong with them because they socialize in a different way than everyone they're surrounded by. That's why it's so important to expose them and put them in social groups and social opportunities with other autistic peers. It's going to be so much easier for them to feel understood, seen, connected, feel like it's okay for them to just be their autistic selves and demonstrate their autistic traits without fear of judgment or being shunned from the group. That's really important, which is why a program like my buddy group is really important, because we have a safe space for neurodivergent individuals to come together and just be themselves. And we really focus hard on helping to support their conversational and their social skills in a way that is respectful of their neurotype and respectful of who they are as a person. We're not trying to make them more neurotypical or to fit in more with neurotypical people. However, it is important for your child to be able to learn how to talk about other people's interests. One of the ways we work on that in Buddy Group is we teach our students to discover shared interest with the other group members. And we have a whole unit that we start every semester this way. Every semester, the first month of classes is just really fun get to know you activities. And we ask get to know you questions, is what we call them in Buddy Group. And they're questions like, what's your favorite? What did you do yesterday? What did you do last weekend? Do you like? We teach these types of questions and then create different activities and games where the students can ask each other these questions in a way that is fun for them. If you want to hear more about how to create activities that are fun and motivating for autistic learners, I have a whole video. I'll link it to the end of this one for you. We spend a whole month doing these get to know you activities, and we really focus on pointing out like, oh, Johnny, you like SpongeBob, and so does Susie, and so does Mike. And then we can help facilitate a conversation around that. Every once in a while, I see in my classes a student that really has a hard time connecting or engaging with others or is more self-focused. All of a sudden, they'll hear something that someone else is interested in that they like too. And they're like, oh, you like that too? And you can just see their eyes light up. When we are focusing on discovering shared interest, then your child is still getting to talk about what they're interested in, but is discovering what other people are interested in too, and they get to talk about it together. And through this process, I find that my students just naturally over time, by being exposed to hearing about other people's interests and being in this group setting where we all have to take turns and listen to each other, they just naturally start being able to focus on other people's interests. And, when I do have a situation in my groups where we're talking about a different topic and one of my students interrupts or interjects, talking about one of their own interests and it's not connected, I don't just shut that child down or that individual down. I'll say something like, okay, I hear that you want to talk about that and we can talk about that. But right now we're talking about Johnny's interest. Maybe you have a comment or question to ask Johnny about what he's interested in. And I will reshape the interaction so that it stays on topic of what the group is talking about first, but the other student knows that they're going to get an opportunity to talk about what they are interested in as well. I hope that you enjoyed this little chat about what to do when you feel like your child won't talk about anything but what they're interested in, and maybe even gave you a little bit of a perception shift on the topic, and that it's okay. It's okay if your child wants to talk about their own interest, and it's okay to validate that and expose them to other people. You're not going to reinforce the behavior, which might be an ABA type of mindset if you come from that type of a background. you are actually going to be validating your child that it's okay that you're interested in this and it's okay that you want to talk about this. And I understand that you talking about this and wanting to talk about this is your way of saying that you love me and you love talking to me. And let me show you other people that also like talking about this too, because then you're just going to be building up their social confidence, which is only going to be able to improve the outcome when they are talking to other people who are interested about other things or other neurotypes as well. I hope you found this helpful. What questions do you have for me on this topic? Let me know in the comments. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe and check us out at Buddy Group, buddygrouprocks.com. Virtual classes available for anybody who lives in New York and PA. Don't be afraid of hearing virtual social group. My students do really well in these groups, and it's a great group of students that I have in these groups. And the families that sign up for my virtual classes, when given the choice, they choose to stay in my virtual classes over the in-person classes sometimes. And some autistic students prefer socializing virtually as opposed to in person because it takes some of the social pressure off for them. And it's just a more comfortable setting for them. So don't let virtual scare you off. But if you do live near Goshen, New York, we definitely have spots in our adult and teen level 1 group this summer. I would love to see your child there. Thank you so much for joining me today, and go ahead and click on the link to the video here at the end of this to learn how to create interactions or activities that will help motivate your autistic learner to engage even more. Bye.